Sarah, who stands up and says, okay, I tell you what, I got this together. Most theologians believe that while they were in Gerar, that she picked up this Egyptian slave and brought her back. Her name was Hagar. And incidentally, most theologians also believe that Hagar was a dark woman. She was a black woman. That has nothing to do with anything. That's just interesting to note. And she comes back out of Gerar, and she says to Abraham something that is difficult to explain, because I've been married for 22 years, and Sister J says, never said. She has never said, I tell you what, baby. I got a headache, but I got a friend. Now, I don't know what the next 22 years will bring, but that first 22, she's never said anything like that to me. So it's kind of hard to describe something that the scripture reveals that you've never seen. My mother never said that to my father. My grandmother never said it to my grandfather on either side of the family. In fact, I don't know any women who really feel comfortable in giving up their husband for renting him out to some other woman, you know. But that is precisely what Sarah does in essence. She says to Abraham, go into my maid and sleep with her, and we're gonna make this promise of God come to pass through a surrogate mother. Not artificial insemination either. This was the real McCoy. Now, I'm going somewhere with this, okay? I'm not lost, I'm going somewhere. Now, Hagar and Abraham become involved in an amorous relationship. And this relationship develops. Imagine with me what it is like to live in this house with Abraham and Sarah and the maid, and to know that he's in the room with her. It's one thing for him to be in the room. It's another thing to know that he's in the room. Worse still is to have sent him in the room. Sometimes in our attempt to manipulate circumstances, we can start balls to rolling that we can't control once they go downhill. Sarah has perpetuated emotion that now she cannot control. I want to warn manipulators. You can manipulate something that later creates a grave dilemma in your life, and it may take years to correct something that you did impulsively because you have control issues and you want to control everything. It's better to stay out of it and let God do it. But Sarah is naive to think that she can manipulate the circumstance and get out of it what she wants without any consequences. The second thing that I want you to look at with Sarah is that Sarah has a faith problem here, because Sarah doesn't really believe that God is going to bless her. Now later her faith must have been developed, because the Bible says in Hebrews 11, through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed when she was past childbearing age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. But notice that through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive. Evidently she hadn't always had that through a process of events her faith was developed, but initially it wasn't developed because she thought that she needed this Egyptian slave to fulfill the promise of God. She did not believe that God could bless her because she was looking at her circumstances and her situation. And sometimes preaching is a frustrating experience, because you can preach a good message to somebody who is so convinced that their situation won't get any better that they will push it off to somebody else and never really believe that God can help them. I've seen people shout all over the church and really not believe that God could really change their marriage. really not believe that God could help them through their storm or their crisis or their financial dilemma. They shout over the idea of God, but the reality of God escapes them. And that's what makes them shout all over the church and continue to operate in the spirit of witchcraft, rebellion, and manipulation, because they still really think that they have to help God out. Sarah draws us a clear picture of this situation. Okay, let's look in the tent. Here we are in the tent with Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, and Abraham is going in and out of this situation and this dilemma endlessly and continually, and all of a sudden Hagar is now pregnant, and she's pregnant with a child to Abraham, and Abraham has always wanted a child. Now imagine being Sarah. Now Hagar is starting the show. And just imagine, let's just play with the text a little bit. Let's imagine in our mind, because you know how pregnant women do. Oh, baby. Oh, I just come feel, Abraham. Come feel. No, right here, baby, right here. Wait a minute, did you feel that? Sarah is left completely out of this situation. Hagar has something in common with Abraham that she doesn't. Hagar has Abraham's child almost 12 years before Sarah finally gets pregnant. Now Sarah gets pregnant with a child. She's produced a child, and now Hagar's child is making fun of Sarah's child, and Sarah looks out the window and sees the children, one making fun of the other, and says, wait a minute, that girl and her nappy head child, because you know where y'all go when y'all get upset. Has got to go. Abraham does what all men do when your wife corners you and you don't want to comply. He got mad. That's the final masculine frontier. When all else fails, get mad. Just blow up and they just stomp out of the house and say, I'm going to wash the car. God catches Abraham storming out of the house and says, the woman is right. Hearken to the voice of thy wife. Here is Sarah's naivety. Sarah is naive enough to think that Abraham could spend that kind of intimate time with the bondwoman and not become bond to the bondwoman. Maybe Hagar is called the bondwoman because she's a slave, but maybe Hagar is called the bondwoman because Abraham has bond to the bondwoman. Okay. Now, here's the dilemma, because Sarah says, put her out and take a little kid with her. It is easy, however, for Sarah to say, put her out, because Sarah is not bond to the bondwoman. We can easily tell people what they ought to do when we have no attachment. It is easy to be spiritual, to be religious, and to be critical when you have not become bond or attached to the thing that you tell other people to get rid of. But somewhere in your life, there is something that you find difficult to give up. I don't know why I'm kind of talking to you this morning. Years ago, I was being stalked. This before I came here. And it was my first time. And calls, notes, letters, everything, stalked, just harassed, all kinds of ways. And suggestive things. A woman was saying that my wife was going to die and my kids were going to die and she and I were going to be together. And her husband and their kids were going to die. It might sound funny, but it ain't. And that we were going to be together. And things were turning up on my front porch. And my kids woke up screaming because they saw her in their backyard. And I ran into her and I got to arguing with her. And I almost hit her with the car. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. This might be your last Sunday. This might be your last Sunday, but I'm gonna tell you. See, the devil knows that I am protective. He knows I'm protective. If you come on my turf and you threaten my family, he knows I will turn into somebody that you have never heard preach. So there I am standing and saying, oh, I remember saying, oh, you crazy, huh?
Love you, Daddy.
Motivation at your fingertips.